As church buildings are due to reopen in some sort of form over the next few days and weeks, I saw this quote. It said, "The church building may be shut, but the Bible is my church and it's always open. And there is my high priest ever waiting to see me. There I have my confessional, my thanksgiving, my psalm of praise, and a congregation of whom the world is not worthy, prophets, apostles and martyrs. In short, all I can want, I find there." I wondered who wrote this, and was surprised it was actually written 200 years ago by a lady from Brighton who was troubled with anxiety and depression for most of her life. Charlotte Elliott was born in 1789 and was part of a family of church ministers, including her grandfather and brother. However, she had a question that never got answered to her satisfaction. She felt unworthy of God's grace. She was continually told by different church ministers of the various churches that she visited to pray more, study the Bible more, and to perform more noble deeds. So she rejected Christianity and lived a life devoid of religion, enjoying the company of many friends, and enjoyed a wide social circle. However, that all changed when she became seriously ill, aged 32. Lying ill at home, a visitor from Geneva called, Dr. Caesar Milan, and he asked her whether she was at peace with God. She resented the question and refused to speak to him. However, a few days later she apologised to Dr. Milan, and she wanted to cleanse her life before God before becoming a Christian. Dr. Milan replied, "Come just as you are, dear Charlotte. Cut the cable. It will take too long to unloose it. Cut it. It is a small loss. The wind blows and the ocean is before you, the Spirit of God and eternity." Wow, people were a lot more poetic in those days, weren't they? Anyway, Charlotte became a Christian, and her and Dr. Milan had a lifelong friendship. One day, Charlotte's brother, the Reverend H.V. Elliott, was having a church bazaar. Now, the night before the bazaar, she was kept awake by some distressing thoughts. She questioned the reality of her whole spiritual life and wondered whether it was anything more than just emotional. The next day, the busy day of the bazaar, she lay upon her sofa, and the troubles of the night came back to her. And they came back to her with such force she needed to do something about it. So she gathered up her thoughts and the great certainties of life, not her emotions, but about her salvation. She thought about Jesus being her Lord, with his power and his promises. So she picked up a pen and paper and decided to write, for her own comfort, the formula of her faith. She began by writing, "Just as I am, without one plea." Let me read you some verses from her poem. "Just as I am, and waiting not, to rid my soul of one dark blot, to thee whose blood can cleanse each spot, O Lamb of God, I come. Just as I am, though tossed about with many a conflict, many a doubt, fighting with fears within and fears without, O Lamb of God, I come." That poem has been set to at least 3 hymn tunes, was a country and western favourite, and now is a modern-day worship song. An amazing legacy for a woman who suffered from depression and felt useless to God's service. One historian wrote that "Just as I Am" has touched more hearts and influenced more people for Christ than any other song written. She sang for those in sickness and in sorrow, as very few others have ever done. Just as I am, you will receive, will welcome me, pardon, cleanse, relieve. Because your promise I believe. O Lamb of God, I come.